My name's Monk Rowe for the Fillius Jazz Archive. I'm pleased to have Sherrie Maricle with me remotely from Pennsylvania, correct?
Right, Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So we had a brief chat before we started about the joy of drum lessons online.
Well, you know, some people are so successful at it. If you're very tech savvy and audio conscious beyond the acoustic, which I am not. So it was presenting quite a bit of challenge. Teaching at the University of the Arts and finishing off drum lessons and drum set juries all through Zoom, which we're very grateful for Zoom, but it did present some, I mean, great opportunity, but just like I said, everybody's got different audio tech skills. So it was an effort.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with doing the saxophone lessons, and you see them playing as soon as they start playing, like the sound cuts out and all.
Yeah. Oh, that too, of course. Yeah, I wasn't even getting to the internet connection issue sometimes, but just the act of the sound of the drums. Especially if you're just using your phone or your computer, of course, the drums immediately overpower the microphone. Mm-hmm. Makes it all sound like static.
Did your university change grading? Yes.
Just and I'm just teaching just applied lessons on juries where all pass fail.
Yeah. Was it a I'm plugging in my headphones, hold on.
Okay.
Was it a controversial discussion?
Well, I'm sure the classroom teachers had more of a conversation than the applied teachers I spoke with. We figured it'd be very rare for a jazz drum set major to fail their drum lesson. So it wasn't that controversial for us, right. But I don't know, probably more how it affects the students' GPA in a negative way. Because, you know, I mean, it just didn't allow us to give them their, you know, more likely A on their lesson. So anyway, so that was how it impacted us.
I think it's a scary thought amongst many scary thoughts about actually starting the semester with online lessons. It's one thing to finish out, you know, 5 or 6 weeks, but to actually just start it. I mean, some people do it as a matter of a regular system, but I'm not looking forward to that myself.
No, and is Hamilton definitely going to remain virtual?
They actually, the last thing I heard was hopeful, but that could change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm not sure about the University of the Arts, but I think if we were allowed back on campus, I mean, it's surely easy enough to keep 6 feet away during a drum lesson and wear a mask. And
you might find you like it being 6 feet away.
Yeah, with earplugs. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, wow, this is just, I mean, complete Twilight Zone time for all of us. Hmm? Very crazy. And, you know, I will share, well, today, actually, the Diva Jazz Orchestra was scheduled to be in Sao Paulo, Brazil with Nina Freelon. So we have had one of the many festivals that were canceled and, you know, with all of my groups. So it's so painful and surreal to see all of those opportunities leave. And then, you know, it's just end with no end in sight for when we possibly will recoup even the smallest bit of live performance. It's very strange.
Were any of the people that canceled, did they try to do their best to say, well, we're going to reschedule?
Yeah, in some cases I pursued it right away. Like for example, in March we were scheduled. Usually Diva does 4 nights at Dizzy's Club in New York City at Jazz at Lincoln Center every March. It's our birthday, and we've been playing there since the club opened. So we were scheduled in March to do a brand new live recording, Diva Swings Broadway, and it was canceled. And I didn't even fiddle around with trying to say, well, we'll come in the fall. I just said, please just put us down for next March. So we have our March 11th through the 14th, everybody, 2021, Diva Jazz.
Wow.
But I mean, the point of that is that many performing arts centers and even in jazz clubs book at least a year in advance.
Right.
You know, so there's already people booked through the end of this year and into 2021. So it'll be very hard to recoup everything. Another example, the Gilmore Keyboard Festival, which is a major piano festival in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The trio is scheduled there, and that's a massive multi-week event was canceled, and hopefully we'll be able to reschedule for 2021. It's just every opportunity is different. So I know that the Berks Jazz Festival here in PA, the festival director, John Ernesto, just wrote to everybody and said, okay, everybody, that was for 2020. We're going to do the same thing, but in 2021.
I see.
You know, that's, you know, again, like dozens and dozens and dozens of acts over multiple days. So everyone's handling it differently.
We're hoping that those venues and festivals can still exist in 2021.
That's the other, I know, Mike, that's such a great point. And, you know, I recently, well, last week, reading things about great iconic clubs in New York, like Smalls, that are really not the major performance clubs, of course, the Blue Note, the Vanguard, Dizzy's, and Jazz Standard, and those places. I'm assuming have enough of financially secure to survive this, but other iconic clubs that are really like the heart and soul that gives so many artists an opportunity, like Smalls and Rowe and Fat Cat, and they're, like you said, I hope, you know, I don't know if the New York landlords are being nice and letting them give them a break on their rent. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know what's going to happen.
I had a question that I've tried to hone down, but I haven't really done it yet. But are there things that you do now, or let's say up until March, over the years, that took a lot of time and energy, and assuming that at some point we get back to normal, you would think twice about actually doing them again because you've noticed that your life is easier because you're not?
Well, man, that's a great question. And there's a lot, when I did spend a lot of my time as the sole booker of the Diva Jazz Orchestra and my quintet 5-play, and mostly I'm a co-leader with a new trio called the 3D Jazz Trio. So I spent ages and endless amounts of hours and weeks and months and years trying to book those groups aggressively. I mean, that was part of my day job, you know, as a band leader, without a booking agency. So when in the end, sometimes when I'd be easily 8 hours a day, especially booking a tour, even working on a 2-week tour and just doing all of it mostly myself. I don't know, and I haven't done it, except other than we mentioned before, trying to rebook some things that were lost. I haven't been as aggressive with, you know, looking for dates in support of other dates, and I don't know if I'll necessarily go back to that to such an extreme degree. I was very aggressive about it, and it was you know, it was successful in many cases, but it was just that was a lot of hours in the day where I wasn't really thinking about music, and that was the kind of activity that made me not like music or the music business. Right. You know, like all the things that don't have to do with playing your instrument and trying to create something beautiful with other musicians. It can be really frustrating to all of us, to every freelance performer. You know, if you're running your own band or business or whatever, it's just, man, all the things that don't have to do directly with your thing in the creative process can be so taxing and really time consuming and really frustrating. So I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but I'm thinking like, whoa, I have practiced more. I was practicing one day and I was out just sitting at my drums for well over 5 hours. Now I haven't done that at all since college. And I couldn't believe how fast the time flew by, you know, and everyone talks about, or not everyone, but some people talk about being in a flow state where you're just doing that thing that you love so much. And I'm like, and, you know, flying down different YouTube rabbit holes of like lessons and learning and checking things out. And I'm like, man, that was, and I I'm getting I get these little goosebumps sometimes when I'm very enthusiastic about something. And that for me was like, oh my God, this is so great. Like, I actually love the drums again. I love the drums so much, because when you're the band leader, sometimes there's just so much other stuff going on. Anyway, forget, like, I love playing the drums, and this is what I've done since I was 11 years old. So not being distracted by, oh no, we don't have another gig. Oh no, we're gonna lose money if we get this bus, or like, oh gosh, how much is the airline overcharged to move the music stands, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm very lucky to have the help of Jamie Dauber, who's been, acting as our, band manager and road manager for quite a while. She's played trumpet in the band like 23 years. And, but geez, all that stuff being gone, to further answer your question, it's just like, oh, here I am back to the kind of the core, or the center of my musical journey started. And it reminded me that I really do love it. So in that way.
Well, that's one upside. I'm curious, what does a drum set player practice for 5 hours?
Oh my gosh. Well, I spend a lot of time working on different, and this is just recently, just different technical things and technical approaches. Like, there's a lot more than one way to hit a drum. This way, there's using your fingers, there's using every finger, there's stick placement, there's wrist movement, there's certain bounce techniques, and with both hands and both feet. And just stuff like that, I'm like, wow. Like, for example, one thing I practice quite a bit is, it's called a push-pull technique, and a lot of Brazilian players use it to play eighth notes when they're playing samba. And it can be like, where a lot of American drummers are trained to use their wrist, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, or fingers this way. Brazilian players go cha-cha-cha-cha. It's like a drop and catch. Oh. So when you get that technique going, and I haven't mastered it, but I can do it. You can go like really fast eighth notes with this really interesting feel to the technique. So stuff like that, like in the normal course of booking gigs and working gigs, like, you try to sneak in those things, but to really have time to sit around and practice it. And then maybe like, oh, let me check out, wow, like all these things of, I don't know, Max Roach or Elvin Jones or Philly Joe Jones or any drummer that you just keep finding new things and new videos and new lessons. And it's great. It's really great.
Well, not only that, I think you just gave a brief lesson to like wind players that was some pretty cool double tonguing you just did.
Oh yeah. Good to sing drum fills that way.
Yeah, okay. Most people are, of course, connected to their jobs. It's a huge part of your life, but I think artists and musicians, etc., are oftentimes define themselves from what they do. And I'm wondering if you're feeling sort of a loss of identity with this current situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot. In my own journey aside from music, just in basic mental and self-help genres, which I am a great consumer of. I love something that Wayne Dyer, great guru, who I love all of his work. He always said, well, listen, you're a human being, not a human doing, because if you stop doing, you don't stop being. And I love that. So I think about that all the time. And I'm like, who am I now that I'm not? I mean, we're all a lot of things, but the way that you function in the world or serve the world in your community, and just the thing that you want to give and share, when that's stopped. I mean, we all know music hasn't stopped, but the way that performers share it is together. And when I Zoom with my bandmates or my trio, especially, we have a new CD out. We did a virtual Zoom release and streamed it live to Facebook and played some music and talked. But it almost, when we first started talking, it almost put us into tears because we can't play together anymore. Even with the best technology, which there's something called Jam Kazam, where you can sort of play together, but not really. It's just weird. Of course, it's just weird. You just being able to share music with each other and create music with each other is something. And for people, the audience and the listener, it's a huge component of it too. And we're entertainers as well. So
Exactly.
it's a lot of things. So all of us have been asking the question, well, if you're not, am I still going to be a musician? I mean, even if it's a rhetorical question, like if I'm not Sherrie, the band leader, drummer, then who am I?
Mhm.
I'm like crazy cat lady. I don't know.
It's almost like I don't want those technologies to work.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, and I'm not leaping to embrace it. Some of my friends are like, you got to get this going because we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I don't really want to. I mean, I guess if I had to, if there was no other way in the world, I mean, like for example, I'm going to, my bandmates are really good at using the app called Acapella. Works extremely well, I guess, with Apple products, but not so much with Windows at the moment. But we're going to do a Diva Jazz virtual recording. You know, you each record your own track separately with a click track, and then you layer it on. So we're going to do a little teaser from the CD we were going to do live at Dizzy's. We decided a couple of my bandmates are good at that stuff, so we're just going to record and put it out there. I don't want to, but I feel like artistically I don't, but for morale purposes and, you know, our friends and fans probably will enjoy it. So I'm gonna go for it.
Why don't you do one where you program the click track to speed up and slow down, just for the heck of it?
That would be funny, like humans do.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing that is weird about it. And I've done layered recordings before, and certainly I practice with a metronome all the time, but it's, you know, and I say this to students too. Nobody has the desire. I'm like, I'm going to rush and drag, you know. So, but when humans do anything together, there's definitely moments where it's going, you know. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's in music. It's in general conversation. It's when you're having a business meeting. You know, there's moments when the energy is like, ah, and there's moments when it's like, whoosh. And in music, it's reflected sometimes with, you know, slight tempo variations.
Yes.
It's not the end of the world. I tell the students, you know, if the metronome goes a few clicks, I mean, you're a human being.
Right.
That's what happens. We're excited and we're, you know, laying back, and it's just, you know, I don't know. Every time you hear a recording that's done with a click track, or where a big band especially layers it, it does have it just seems inhuman and very sterile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't Count Basie.
No, and a lot of recordings, you know, and we all have listened to them. If you want to be picky about it, you can listen to the opening tempo and the ending tempo. It could be different.
Right.
Still doesn't make you love it less.
Well, speaking of the end of the world.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Do you have a personal thought about why this pandemic is happening now?
That's a really fascinating question. Sure. I think I saw a funny meme, and it's serious, because I think there could be a true component to this. I don't know how the whole universe works, but it said, this is the universe telling humans to go back to your room and think about what you've done. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is really, I mean, very broad. Whatever anybody's philosophical, religious, or the origins of humanity's views are, I think if anything makes sense, humans have been and are the most destructive force on this planet. Mm-hmm. And we function collectively like you know, this is harsh wording, but almost like a virus or a cancer. Like, we destroy everything in our path to serve ourselves with little regard for anything else. Kind of, I know this is so general, but human beings as a species and how we interact with our ecosystem in the world, every other, you know, living being seems more or less to work in harmony without killing everything around it. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't know if this is true, but I have had those thoughts. And then, of course, other thoughts about, like, what is the government doing? Is this something weird that we don't know about? Which it also could be any of those things, from bio warfare to like some other weird experiment. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And I can't, and now what's going on now, I mean, some people are convinced it's a hoax, or are running around like nothing happened. And I don't know. That's very, I don't know. It's
Self-destructive, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the government, how do you feel about what your state has done or the federal government?
I think the federal government's, I mean, I am not a Trump supporter in any way, particularly of the Mitch McConnell and all the people in the Senate, starting way back from Paul Ryan and Lindsey Graham. And I think I can't figure out if they have been, if it's part of if the GOP has become a cult, or if they all have the same form of mental illness. I mean, I really don't know. I don't understand what their motives are for some of this behavior, or supporting a president who is clearly a sociopathic narcissist and has severe mental illness, who can't even speak in sentences, coherent sentences. I don't understand it. It's really scary. And I thought the whole response in reaction from that, and lack of response and barely a reaction from the pandemic, was just outrageous and unforgivable, with no federal plan or guideline, or even the simplest thing you want from a leader is for somebody to stand in front of you and try to make everything better, or give you focus and hope that we're going to get through this and this is going to be great. And we've got none of that on that level. And I think that all the governors are of course doing their best, but I heard a couple of months ago, and the governor of North Carolina, I believe, said, "Oh, I didn't know this was contagious," or like something so insane. It's like, what? So not having any guidance from the top and relying on all of our governors, who are, also great leaders. It's been, it's been mixed messages all across the board from the leadership. Pennsylvania, I think, is strict because it's so close to New York City. I think tomorrow, Pennsylvania's due to go into the yellow phase with some reopening. Mm-hmm. But surely everybody, will still be wearing a mask, which I don't, which I don't have any problem with. I mean, I always thought to myself, anytime I got to travel to any Asian country, how great and respectful that was, that culture wears a mask if they're sick, because they don't want to get anybody else sick. I mean, that's been going on forever. Mm-hmm. And then for people to be offended and you're taking away my freedom, it's like this, the same thing as no shirt, no shoes, no service. Now wear a mask or get out, because it's not about you. It's about everybody else too. Just about you. So in Philadelphia now, and I'm sure we're going to go to this topic, is in having major riots every night and has an 8 o'clock curfew. And I live about 25 miles west of Philadelphia. I just moved out of Philadelphia in March, and the city's in chaos right now. And all the major bridges, and like in New York too, in and out of the city, have been closed because of riots. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's gonna happen if we're gonna reopen on Friday or not, combined with all the looting. And in Center City, Philadelphia, one of the major areas by the big Kimmel Performing Arts Center, that's like the Carnegie Hall of Philly, like from Chase Bank to all the stores and all the retailers, restaurants, all the windows are smashed out. There's been crazy looting.
Historians are going to have a field day with 2020.
Oh, I know. I can't even imagine what anyone looking back on this is going to think. Like, what? Humans lost their mind.
Yeah.
Or something. When I think back to like this, and of course it's it's with the leadership of the government and why Donald Trump even got elected. I mean, when I was just Zooming with my friend in England before our talk, and they think the United States has gone berserk. They're like crazy. Like, how did you elect a person like that? And I think it's because some people in my family who will remain nameless. Oh, well, we just wanted something different. And I said, but what? But that makes what? What? I mean, I get that, but that you would vote for a thing like Donald Trump, who clearly has, no empathy, no intellect. No experience, no understanding. It's so insane that the people brainwashed by reality TV or his TV show. I don't know what it is.
I don't either. And I've run out of adjectives. If you need some adjectives about him, read George Will's latest thing for the Washington Post.
Okay.
Ron,
Okay.
he came up with some good ones, good and bad good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one that's was it like a cockwombler or something? There was one funny, real long word that was like a blustering fool who doesn't know anything, some word that was like, oh, there's Trump again. Yeah, got to take out some old Victorian words or something. But I'll check that out.
Have you taken up any non-musical initiatives to fill time?
Well, yeah. I mean, this year, in past years I've done this too, but of recent years have not had time. So I planted a big herb garden, and that kind of thing is fun, and did a little more landscaping. Especially this new house I have is a converted bank barn from the 1800s in Westchester. It's very, very cool. It's not on a lot of acres or anything. It's about 2 acres, but it's very, very pretty. So I'm going to backtrack for a second, because I moved March 25th, and I was like, okay, it's a pandemic. All the gigs are gone, but I'm moving to this new house with my partner, Susan, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to running. I mean, I was a marathon runner. I had all these plans, and I broke my foot in 3 places, my left foot. The day I was moving, I fell off 1 step. My left foot twisted, and the 3 bones right in the middle of my foot, I heard them right in the So I couldn't walk for 6 weeks, to add fun to my experience. And but now, as of Monday, I'm able to walk around in my normal shoe. But I was 6 weeks without walking. Then I was another month, 5 weeks. No, yeah, about a month in an orthopedic boot, big one, and now it still hurts. But I mean, I was still playing the whole time. I was doing music videos and instructional stuff, a lot of brushes. But my hi-hat foot was out of commission.
I was going to ask which foot it was, and I can picture your appointment. So Doc, when can I start playing the hi-hat? What do you?
That is what I said, and I demonstrated to him how I play. I pound very, very hard on my toe. I play with my heel off the ground, and so he said that I had something called a dancer's break. He said it's a perfect combination of when your foot twists and all your weight goes down on one foot while I was falling. And I don't know. I used to have, but it's so funny. And I was just started doing, because Monday I said I got okay, you don't have to wear the boot anymore. Put on your shoe and various exercises. So anyone can stand on one foot. It's no problem. But when your foot has not been walked on in 2 months, I was trying to just stand on my left foot, and there's so many muscles and tendons and nerves and bones in your foot, and none of them have been active. So I mean, I can do it for a number of seconds, but it's amazing how it's going to take a while for my left foot to get back to its pounding hi-hat greatness.
I didn't expect that answer when I asked you if you've been doing anything non-musical.
Well, I love to cook. I cook like a jazz musician. I improvise everything. I watch the Food Network a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to make things I see on the Food Network. So I love doing that, and I have been doing a lot of that.
Good.
And thinking about plans for this barn, I'm in my place in Philadelphia. I lived in an old stationery factory, and we had turned the first floor into a performing arts space called Drummers. So this barn, while it's still it's in somewhat chaos, because like I said, I'm just getting back on my feet, but this is going to be a performing arts space too. So there's a whole downstairs area that are it was a dairy barn, old, stables and stuff, and a huge garage, and these super cool area in the back that could be a great recording studio or like a colonial pub. And there's this, let me put this down. I'm on there's I don't know how well you can see this. That structure in the back I call it the tin can. Mm-hmm. That's about a 2,200 square foot house that we live in. Here's the upstairs where there can be a balcony or a second floor. Uh-huh. You can't really see the whole thing, but anyway, it's a big barn.
Wow, thanks for the tour.
Well, so that's going to be it's going to be a performing space too. And as soon as we're allowed to gather,
Right.
I'm going to have a concert here with my band, at least with my trio, because we're set up to roll with that and invite the whole neighborhood just for fun.
Well, let someone else move the piano, all right?
Yeah, but you got, when you think about how stupid to fall off of one step. I mean, it's so stupid. I can't even believe it when I think back. It's so annoying. My right foot got twisted in a blanket. And then, of course, I'm thinking, oh, okay, good, there's a pandemic, everything's closed. So I drove myself to, like I said, it was the day we were moving, so the moving trucks were there. So Susan couldn't come with me, so I drove myself to Urgent Care, which was a brand new one on Girard Street in Philly. And nobody was there, and they let me right in. And then miraculously, this orthopedic place was open. Just very happy I didn't need surgery.
Yeah. Has Susan's job or employment, whatever she does, been affected? How has it been affected?
Yes, Susan is the CEO of the Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia, and she's on call 24 hours a day for numerous reasons. It's if people don't know, the Ronald McDonald House started in Philadelphia, and it's an organization that houses critically ill children and their families while they're seeking medical treatment from all over the world. Particularly, I mean, there's about 350 houses, I believe, around the world, and Susan's one of the primary houses serves families and children from all over the world. I mean, they do things amazing things for families, and it gives, like I said, these people a safe place to stay with their critically ill children. And so when the pandemic hit and it ceased basically travel from everywhere, that created challenges and issues for people that really needed to have their child could only get, and a lot of times it's experimental treatment, because some people come for, like I said, very critical situations of getting the families here and then making sure they're healthy beyond the sick child, and then just finding that making sure your staff is healthy to continue to serve them. I mean, it's like it's like basically it's like running a 200-room facility for critically ill children.
Oh.
Like a hotel.
It's
amazing. So, and then with the riots happening now in the city, then that's created another, with a reduced staff for safety purposes, and now worrying about security with people.
Wow.
So she's, if I tell you, like, somebody that, I mean, she goes in and out of Philadelphia still quite a bit, and she's there all day today, in fact, but somebody that wakes up at like 4:30 in the morning and will work for hours and hours before she even goes to work. She started out, she's such a great human. She worked for the government in PA, then she started out as a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. And she said in hindsight, when she thought about the best part of her week, and it always was being a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh.
So she went to talk to the then CEO, whose name I can't remember, about just potentially like getting some advice about working in nonprofit. And then Susan said before she left the office, she had a job. and then her position and her love of the organization and know-how just elevated her to her position, and she's great at it. Thanks for asking.
Well, you've also answered my last question, and that is, during these last couple months, have you observed positive and negative aspects of people? And I appreciate that positive description that you just offered.
Yeah, well, you see, like, I'm amazed by my friends and bandmates and other friends, and some are like so positive. Within like one day, like my last job was March 10th. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at Coe College. I was on a little solo tour, like I was in Nebraska at the Nebraska Bandmasters Association, then spent 4 days in Iowa. And I went from, actually my trio was in Florida with Maurice Hines just before that, going great. And I get home, and then all your gigs like cancel, and it's horrifying and surreal. Within a day, some friends are like, here's my virtual summer music camp. Here's my lessons. Here's my concert series. It's like, wow. Like, they're not letting anything. They're just so, and I've seen this, I'm sure, like, age is probably irrelevant, but I've seen this from my younger bandmates, especially. Mm-hmm. The ones still in their 20s, they're like, this isn't stopping me. Here's my concert series. Now they're lucky if they live with like live with me. Like if you're a bass player that lives with a pianist, you're cool. Or any horn player that lives with a piano player or a bass player. But
yeah.
If you're a drummer and you live by yourself, it's hard for me to make interesting solo concerts, I think, for the general consumer.
Right.
But yeah, I'm involved with a great camp called Maryland Summer Jazz. That's an adult camp. Oh my gosh, and I'm not kidding you when I tell you there's like physicists, an ex-Navy SEAL, like really smart, great, super intelligent adults that love jazz. So I always enjoy teaching there. So that's going to go virtual this year. It's in July, but interestingly, because of the virtual nature now, the camp director, a guy named Jeff Antoniak, now he's got, Peter Erskine, I think Bob Mincer, I don't know, he's got all these like, stars, chiming in for a session because he doesn't have to fly them anywhere. Since the whole thing is virtual, it's kind of opened up some opportunity for that. And that's a good thing. Yeah,
I'm actually negotiating with a fellow in France who admires our project here, and he says, would you let me try to do some interviews with French musicians, and he'll send them to me, etc. So there are things that are happening that may not have happened, but
yeah. Hey Monk, I did a tour with a great pianist named Oliver Jones, and the bass player on the gig was a French man named Pierre Boussaguet.
Mm-hmm.
I think he lives in Toulouse, and he did a duo record with Ray Brown, and he's very much in the style of Ray. He's a great musician. He would be if you're looking for any Frenchman, he swings his brains out. He's great.
I may ask you to spell that name out for me.
Okay, sure.
Before we close, I wanted to just say again, you were at Hamilton, I'm not good with how long ago, maybe 2 years ago. And that was such a terrific concert musically, but also the fact that when the concert was done, all these junior high kids like, oh, can we go on the stage? And indeed, I mean, I just got such a kick out of that, interacting with you, and you were so kind to them. And I know they won't forget that. Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, you don't think about it when you're in the moment, but when I think back to, when I was 11 and got to go on Buddy Rich's bus to say hi, it's like, to me, it's like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Or when I, shook Woody Herman's hand and met Mel Lewis and saw Count Basie in his wheelchair outside Carnegie Hall last time I saw them play. Oh. And just, hi, Mr. Basie. And he's like, hi, just like, I never, any of those interactions to me. Indeed. With people that I love. So obviously I'm not elevating myself to any status like the people I just mentioned, but just that somebody enjoyed the concert and wanted to talk to us. It makes a difference. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And, you said in our interview before, you must exude a positive attitude on stage. I wrote that down, and I think you still are. So thank you. Thank you, Monk. I'm really happy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me. This was like a highlight of since March 10th. This has been one of my best thing I've done. Well, me too. I appreciate it. I think that I actually checked my calendar, but I think March 10th was my last gig too. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I still have, my trio still has one on the books at the Deer Head Inn for August 15th. So I'm not sure if it's going to happen. I know the Deer Head keeps hanging on too. That's in the Delaware Water Gap in Pennsylvania. And hopefully. It begs the question, just to wrap up, if they put that on you, if they called and said, we'll do the gig if you want to, and things are still like not totally back to normal, you're going to have a decision to make, right? Yeah. I mean, the trio on the stage, for us, we would definitely be 6 feet apart as performers. But for the Deer Head, it would have to make sense if they could open with social distancing. Right. And I don't know how the food handlers and drink and bartenders and stuff would handle it. But, there's a lot to think about. There is.
So, and if it would even make sense for them to open the room, let's say the room maximum jammed can hold 100 people. If they can only have like 25 people in there, then it financially probably wouldn't even make sense for them to open.
Okay. Well, listen, we have enough activity for today. Let's both take the rest of the day off.
All right, I need a break.
Take care.
All right, you too, Monk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.